Over the last week, I've gone to the UK and done a 3,000 kilometre round trip to visit a number of boats, of which I've reviewed on this channel. In front of us you can see the overall route going from Switzerland to the Netherlands to visit the Faro passenger boat Capella, or as originally called Silberin. Then onto the ferry over to Hull in the UK, where I drove up the coast to Hartlepool, then across to Girvan to see the pilot cutter, up into Scotland to see a wooden fishing boat from the late 60s, then over to Aberdeen to catch the ferry to the Shetland Islands to see a coated passenger and cargo boat. So while it was a fun trip, it was also a little bit expensive and a little bit tiring with a lot of driving. So when I left, I had a number of goals for the trip, and here are those goals. First of all, looking at photos on the internet doesn't give you a really good feel for the boat. So I wanted to visit the boat and get that feel. Second goal was to see if they really met my requirements. 3, I wanted to see the true condition of the boat. Sometimes the photos make the boats look a lot better than they really are. And finally, I wanted to estimate the time and the cost to get the boat operational. The first stop was to this boatyard just outside of Rotterdam to visit the Faroe Island ferry Capella. Climbing on board, the conditions were what I expected. She's been sitting out in the open for a couple of years, and despite having some pretty major work done on the hull and the chimney stack, she was a little bit dirty, to say the least. Starting from the rear, we expected the steering room. So given it's a twin engine boat, we have 2 rudders, and the general condition of the room was okay. A lot of surface rough, bit of cleaning, so you'd have to get in there and do a bit of work, remove the surface runts and repaint, but generally not too bad, just a bit of time and probably not too much money. Next we move the upper deck. This is an outdoor seating area for passengers. No real major damage. The fiberglass seats were not in wonderful condition and would potentially be removed, and there was also a bracket there for a hydraulic crane, so that could be reinstated, and this space could actually be made quite handy to put a Zodiac or some sort of tender on board. And forward, next to the stairs, we had some battery boxes, which are in a pretty good condition. Moving to the foredeck, we noticed that there is no anchor winch, which would have to be added. We do have a fire system, a pretty good one on board, but would need to be completely serviced. And once again, just the general condition of the boat is the same up front. Now let's move inside and take a look at the steering position. First thing we notice is a smashed portside window, and it's a fairly simple steering house. Most of the electronics have been removed for the chimney rebuild. They're on board somewhere but would have to be reconnected and placed up on the chimney stack. We have the control panel for the 2 Gardner engines, which is a big plus for the boat. We also have the autopilot controls and the compass in place. Moving to the aft of the wheelhouse, we start to see some of the open wiring and the circuit boards, and I think this is one of the big jobs that would need to be done. The electrical wiring would have to be fully reviewed and made sure it was safe and functioning, as it is a little bit of a mess at the moment. And we can see the fire alarm here, and now let's move to the forward cabin. This was originally a crew area and could be turned into a nice little cabin. It's relatively small, but for 1 or 2 people would be actually very good. Moving aft again, we take a look at the toilet, and as you can see, it's a pretty disastrous condition. I'm not sure if I would want to use it, you tell me. Now we get into the main area of the ship, which is the passenger cabin. This is a relatively large open space and could be converted into a couple of cabins, saloon, kitchen area, and could make a nice, very livable ship. You can check out one of my other videos where I actually drafted some layouts for this area, and now I've visited the space, I think it could actually work out pretty fine from what I did. Finally, we descend into the engine room from below the wheelhouse, and we can see the 2 large Gardner engines, and there is really a lot of space in this engine room, especially if we peek towards the aft of the engine room where it extends under the passenger floor. There is a lot of room to access engines, store things, etc. So the conditions of the engines are unknown, but they seem in reasonable condition, and Gardner provide an excellent service where they will come and test your engines and provide you some level of guarantee. This is really the big strength of the boat, got a really reliable power plant here. But that said, the exhaust is not connected and there is still a little bit of steel work to do leading from the engine room up to the chimney stack. That was the first ship done, and then it was a short drive to the ferry in Rotterdam, catching the overnight ferry to Hull, where we would proceed to the next ship in Hartlepool Marina. Hartlepool is a great marina to visit from land, or even better by sea. I've done that before. It's large, lots of berth, lots of services, and there's a lot of very interesting boats for sale, like this old fishing boat, the Challenger, that's for sale for about £55,000. We also have an ex-naval training ship for sale, and then in the harbour there's also a variety of very, very interesting boats. However, the one that I saw was this one, which is really a bit of a dog of a boat, if I can be honest. It's a ferro concrete hull, which is not really a great material, and the layout was not wonderful. It could have been done better, but it just felt poor finish. And to be honest, it felt a bit dangerous because, you know, when you get into the interior areas, there's really only one exit out the back door, or the living area forward is very low in the boat, and it just felt awful, felt claustrophobic. And interestingly, after I inspected it, pretty much in a few days, the price had dropped by about 10%. So good luck to the owner. We wish no one bad karma, but I think that could be a very difficult boat to sell, unfortunately. Next, we drove across to the west coast of Scotland to Girvan. In the next video, we visit the boat I made an offer on, which is the Milford Haven pilot cutter, Lundreath, and I look forward to showing you all the details on the boat and how much work's involved to get it back onto the sea. Thanks for watching.